And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and I'm always excited when there is another Christmas game that I can look at, because I like the Christmas theme. Now I'm recording this in April. You might be surprised that I have a Christmas hat, but I have all kinds of hats. But anyway, today we're taking a look at Santa's Workshop. This is by Keith Ferguson from Rio Grande Games. It is a worker placement game in which you are a team of elves trying to build gifts for Santa and being the best elves you possibly can be to get the most points. Because then Santa will take you to Disney World. Actually, it doesn't say that, but I'm just assuming that's what happens. I don't know what good elves get. Maybe they don't have to make toys next year? Who knows? Here's how the game plays. The goal of this game is to get the most points, as many games is, and you're going to be doing that over the course of 6 rounds. You're going to keep track up here with this Santa Claus meeple, and each round of the game, players are going to be taking turns placing their workers on the board. Now, each player will have their own sheet here, and you have 4 different workers. You can see that 2 of them have straight hats, and then 2 of them are wearing skirts or not. So it's, you can tell them apart, and they also have spots here where you can upgrade what they do when they go on the board. You also have a spot here to put some coal, and if you put 2 wood cubes here, you'll have more spots to place coal and keep them in this spot. And here you can place 2 metal, and if you do that, your tools are sharpened, and you will be able to do better when you go to the mine. And you also have spots to put 2 cloth here, which is simply just 4 points. So what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to place a worker on the board, and there's different spots to put workers in these different rooms, and some spots are only open in games with 3 or more players or 5 or more players, etc. So what do the spots do? Well, if you go to this spot down here to the schools, you go to school. Now there's going to be 4 different tokens here. I guess you're learning how to make gifts better, and you're going to take one of these tokens and you're going to add that token to the elf who went out there. So let's say Missil's the elf that went out there, and now Missil is going to be better at assembling gifts. You can also go to these spots. These 3 spots here are the workshops. Here you get wood, here you get cloth, here you get metal. You can go to one spot where you turn in 1 coal for 2 of that resource, or the other spot you turn in 3 coal for 3 of that resource. And if you have on that particular elf the thing that gives you 2 extra, you'll get 2 extra. Now when you take these resources, you need to put them on gifts right away. So let's say each player is going to start with some unassembled gifts. So here we have the dress-up clothes. This just requires a lot of cloth. So if I get cloth, I can put them on this card. This cloth is going to require 7. This card is going to require 7 cloth to finish and 3 assembly tokens. And when I do so, it's going to give me 28 points. Let's take a look at some of the other cards here. Here we have an electric train. This requires 6 metal, or 4 metal and 2 plastic, or 5 metal and 1 plastic. 2 of the metal can be replaced with plastic, and 4 assembly tokens. Now, if I replace these with plastic, for each plastic I use, the points will go down. You can see it's 30 points, but if I use 2 plastic, it's only 26 points. Same thing here. It requires a bunch of things, but if I replace one of these with plastic, it becomes 30. Sometimes you can replace the whole thing with plastic, like these roller skates. And if I do that, instead of getting 16 points, I will get 7. Some you can't use plastic at all, and some you can make the whole thing out of plastic. And there are a few toys that even, let's see if I can find some of them, that even require plastic. But for the most part, you can use plastic or not use plastic. I know there's a gift in here that required plastic. Well, whatever. It was Legos, essentially. Oh, there it is. So, but for the most part, you can choose. So you're going to go here to get these. You go to here, plastic. You'll notice you get 7 plastic when you go there that you can put out. So plastic is a great place to put your people. However, again, it's cheaper and you're not going to get fewer points. You can also go here to get assembly tokens. Get 2, 1, 1. And this is if there's a 5-player game, you can get 2. And if you have the training, you can get an extra assembly token. Assembly tokens can only be added to one of your toys that you're making if the toy is completely finished. So you have to have all the resources on it before you can start putting assembly tokens on it. Once you put the last assembly token on it, you've finished it, and on your board you're going to put it by the assembled gifts section. You can also go up here to get more gifts. You can have 5 gifts you're working on at any point in time. And the first space lets you draw up to 3 of these. And the second one lets you wipe them and put out 6 new ones and then draw up to 2. Finally, the last place you can go to is Santa's Stables. When you go here, you're going to get the cookies that are on here. Every turn, 1 cookie is added to each reindeer stable. So reindeers that aren't used are going to have more and more cookies on them. But they're going to give you resources of different types. This one gives you 2 coal. This one gives you assembly token. This one here gives you this guy here, who's the little elf who can go out and be a worker for you. This one gives you a toy that you can work on, and Comet gives you the first player marker, which will let you go first next turn. And then the number of cookies that are there, you just discard them, and you get that many points immediately. And all these places, only 1 worker can go, but at the top of the board over here, you will see that there's a place you can go to get coal. That's the coal mine where you get 4 coal, or if you have the sharpened tools, you'll get 6. Now, I told you there was 9 rounds in the game. At the end of every 3rd round, December 18th, 21st, and 24th, whoever has the most completed gifts at that point in time is going to score bonus points for each gift that they've done. And after that, that's pretty much it. You're going to be adding all the points from the different gifts that you've gotten over the course of the game. There's a few other scoring things, but basically, whoever has the most points is the winner. So let's take a look at the board first. I really like the scoring track here. It's very colorful, has very Christmas flavor to it. I'm less of a fan of the cookies here because they kind of look like eggs. Now, if you look really closely at them, hopefully this will focus in on them there, you can see that they're Christmas cookies, but this is looking really closely. I just wish they had made those look a little better. The meeples are fine, but even though there's 4 different meeples, and this shows you what the meeples look like here, you will find yourself putting the wrong meeples because they're just slightly different with curved hats and such. It's not a big deal as long as you know which meeple from which area you're putting out. The cubes, I've never ever thought I would have to say that cubes are bad quality, but they are. It might be a little bit hard to tell from this picture, but the cubes, they look cool, and I like the silver cubes a lot, but they're not even. They seem to be cut poorly. The cards themselves, the gift cards, I don't mind the artwork on them, but the graphic design just doesn't seem very good. They're not easy to tell at a glance what they are. They just don't look that great. And in fact, the board itself, while I don't mind the artwork, just has kind of an amateur look to it. It kind of looks like a prototype style board. So while I like the scoring track around the outside and I like the theming of everything, it's a little cluttered, and it's not easy to see where the worker places are that you can go to. Like if you want to look at the worker places for the wood area here, you can see them, but it's not the easiest thing. In fact, it's even harder if you look over here in the cloth shop. They're hard to see. So components for this game, they're not bad, right? But they could have been a lot better. All right, so you can see that I'm not totally enamored with how the game looks, but how does it play? Well, here's the thing. When I started playing this, I was super enthusiastic about it. It really seems good. You get to place your elves out. You can upgrade your elves, and when you put elves in different spots, they will do things. I really, really, really like the idea of, do you want to build the elves of quality materials, or do you want to use cheap plastic? Cheap plastic is faster, but it gets you fewer points. And so I like that dichotomy there. However, as the game progressed, it has a pretty fatal flaw in it for me, and that is the assembly area / the fact that many of the areas on the board become less useful. And this is especially prevalent in a 4-player game. In fact, we haven't done this yet, but we were thinking about playing a 4-player game, but with the 5+ spots open, because as the game progresses, there are fewer places that are useful. Like going to school, not very useful in the last few turns of the game. Who cares if you're upgrading your elf? Because you're not going to be able to put things out. Now, the designer knew this because the assembly area, there's a special rule that on the 9th turn of the game, the final turn, in the assembly area, you can put 2 of the elves in each area. Fine. But even on the 8th, the 7th, the 6th, and the 5th turn, you are running into the same problem. See, it's easy to get materials. There's 2 spots per materials for each one, and 1 or more players can also just go into plastics and build plastic things. So you have these spots to get materials. But assembly tokens, you need assembly tokens for every single gift. So you have to go there. You can't go there until you put the stuff, like you can't save anything. If you get extra cubes or extra assembly tokens and you don't have spots to put them, they go away. So you can't go to assembly tokens on turn, well, you could go on turn 1 if you get a couple gifts built, small gifts built, but you're not going to go there much at the very beginning, but at the end you have to go there. So as the game goes by, for us it became whoever was first player went to the spot that gave him 2 assembly tokens. Whoever was second player went to the spot that gave him 1. Whoever was third went to a spot that gave him 1. Whoever was fourth went to the reindeer spot that gave them 1. And then the next player probably took the first player marker so that they could do it next turn. Now, it wasn't exactly like that. You also need resources and things, but the game became bottlenecked. It became bottlenecked, and it also became a game where you're like, oh, we're all doing the same thing. There's not a lot of multiple strategies. There's not a lot of cool different ways to go things. There's build your stuff with good quality components or use plastic. That's kind of two different things to go. Upgrade your thing to get more coal, that's kind of a decision, but there's not a lot of decisions. It's, here's the gifts I have, I need these materials, hopefully other people won't get them. And even the reindeer, which has 2, 3, or 4 places, depending on the number of places, so you go there because that's a place to get extra stuff, but that fills up really quickly too. And so many times your third or fourth elf, you're like, I just don't even care. There's just not enough worker places on the board, and it felt too tight, and that just makes it unfun. This is about a joyous game about making gifts for Christmas, and it starts out that way, but degenerates, and that happened in each of the games that I played, where it just kind of went downhill. And again, like I said, I think the 4-player game is especially prone to this. Now, the game does also come with a deck of event cards, where you can shuffle these and draw 1 per turn. So assign an elf to the metal shop costs an extra coal. Here, there are no unusual events happening. Add an extra cookie token each stall in the stables today. One player can place an elf here to immediately turn in 6 coal for 2 cookies each. So there's some good events, some bad events. Different things can happen, but the fact is, it just adds a little bit of randomness to the game, and I don't really care about these one way or the other. Yeah, so you can add them or not. So, unfortunately, this has to be a pass for me. I think the concept is great, but it was too stringent on how you can do things. There's not enough emerging strategy from the game. That, coupled with that the components are kind of ho-hum, it's too bad, right? I like the Christmas theme. I like the idea a lot, but Santa's Workshop, it's for the Grinch. Dice Tower Judgment, so close, but I can't recommend it.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!